I believe. Hello, welcome to you. Thank you so much for watching. Let me see. Oh, I have us all ready today. So, yes, today we are doing our Tuesday mostly savory video. And yes, today I'm very excited to be doing my pasta Puttanesca. In fact, I love that name. I'm going to be calling it Puttanesca. Oh, and because Puttanesca has a unique origin, and the word Puttanesca loosely is considered whore or prostitute. So this is actually a very, very risque pasta. You might not want to tell all the kids where this came from. This is more adult. Yes, so much umami, and in fact, that's what we're going to start doing right now. This is not a difficult recipe at all, but I'm going to be showing you a little trick as to how we recreate. So the one ingredient, the only ingredient that's in this recipe that is not typically vegan is the anchovy. So we're going to be using the eggplant to make anchovies today. So I'm going to show you, this is a fun and easy way to recreate the anchovies. Now, this does have to be done the day ahead of time. And you just want to take your eggplants, chop off the end, and then you want to cut off all the skin. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how this recipe came to be. So there's actually a lot, believe it or not, a ton of controversy. Some people believe that this was a recipe that was made by prostitutes as they were busy between customers. You know, imagine that. The ladies would be working, and then they'd have just a couple of minutes off, and then they would run out, and they would whip up this recipe. But believe it or not, the historians, there are many historians who say that's a bunch of malarkey, or that's bogus. That's not true at all. They believe, actually, in a little village on the island of Isharia, I'm probably saying that wrong, because this recipe does come from Naples, the third largest city in all of Italy. And as many of you know, Southern Italian food is much more based with tomatoes. So this is a tomato-based sauce. The three main ingredients in this recipe are tomatoes, olives, and capers. So those are the major items in this recipe. But we're getting, like Jessica was talking about, and my buddy Gozer is saying, very interested to see the anchovies. So we're making now the anchovies from the eggplants. So you just want to cut off the skin, get your regular standard speed peeler, potato peeler, whatever you want to call it. And now you want to just start making ribbons. And when I say making ribbons, just dragging that along there the same way, and then you're going to put them in a colander. There you go. Okay, so you're just going to drag these across. They don't have to be beautiful. Look, depending upon, some eggplants are bigger and have more seeds. If yours are really seedy, you don't want to use those. But it's totally fine if you get a little bit in there. Twist this a little bit. So you just want to keep going like this till you do about a half a kilogram of eggplant ribbons. And don't worry if it gets a little bit chunky. Don't worry if it gets it doesn't have to be perfect. Anchovies themselves are going to, of course, are darker in color. You can see how this is oxidizing already, so it actually is already changing color. So you want to continue on doing all of that, and then as you go. And I like to do it, just have a bowl underneath and then a colander, because you're going to be letting this sit overnight and drain. So what you want to do is make sure you get a good amount of salt. We have anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons. Now, I haven't finished it all, but you want to salt this liberally and make sure you toss it well. And then once you're done, just put this in your refrigerator. I like to put a towel or something to cover it, and then just let it sit. What's going to happen is the condensation, the liquid is going to stay down here in your bowl, and then the next day you're going to wring it all out. You want to get all that liquid out. So what we're trying to do is we're taking all the liquid out of the eggplant, And then we're going to be infusing the fish or umami or anchovy flavor. Because remember, anchovies are little fish. So now I'm going to show you what you're going to be doing the next day. I'm not going to do it because remember, I don't have this right now for you. But the next day, wring out the water. And then you want to come back and you'll be putting in white wine vinegar. And then you want to use a little bit of seaweed. Now, you can use, I have just basic nori sheets here. You know, this is the same nori that you would use for sushi. So you would just take this. These are the same sushi sheets. Dry grate these in a blender, or you can use sushi powder. You can use wakame. You can use any seaweed powder that you like. And then you want to mix it up and put it in, of course, good old olive oil. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. These are the anchovies. That's right. Don't they look like anchovies? See, label it, put it in there. I promise you, if you put this in your own refrigerator and you have guests over and they see this, they're going to say, hey, wait a minute. I thought you were vegan. I thought you were plant-based. What do you do with these anchovies? Guess what? That's how authentic and how lifelike and how really like the thing they look. So there you go. Those are your anchovies. So we're going to come back to those in a little bit. Now I'm going to bring you down here. We're going to start working on our sauce. So in here I have just a pan with 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Just going to pop this on. Bringing this up as I talk to you a little bit about your tomatoes. Now chefs, a lot of times people believe that fresh, let's see, how long do they keep in the fridge? Oh, those are a fabulous question. As long as they're submerged, these anchovies will keep for months in the refrigerator. I would say absolutely 2 or 3 months. Just keep them submerged under the oil line. So just make sure they don't get oxidized. As long as you have a nice, clean, sterile jar, you can absolutely use them for months. A lot of times people believe it or not, have this hang up that they think that fresh is the best fruit or vegetable on the planet. You absolutely, well, let's try them on a pizza. Oh yes, trying them on a pizza would be really good. That would be fantastic. In fact, I know Jessica has used something very similar on her pizza de Liere, which is a wonderful French pizza, very anchovy-like. But with your tomatoes, don't be afraid to get canned tomatoes. These are oftentimes bottled and packaged straight away after harvesting, and they are some of the best tomatoes. They have so much flavor. They're much better than ones that have sat around in a warehouse. So don't be afraid of using canned tomatoes. I do encourage you to find the ones in your area that you like the best. I did do a little bit of taste testing here, and this was the better one. These are Greek version, but oftentimes I would suggest starting with the traditional Italian one. Now here I have some minced garlic. Actually, honestly, I was shocked when I did the research on this recipe. It didn't actually have garlic in it. Garlic was an afterthought, so it's not in the traditional recipe. But I can't imagine doing any Italian, recipe without garlic in it, and a lot of it. I'm a garlic junkie. I would hate to be one of those people who's allergic to garlic. So we're just going to fry this off. Now, these tomatoes, I'm going to bring this down. You don't want to burn your garlic. You definitely want to watch it. You want to get it nice and crisp. You want to get nice and caramel color, but don't let it go brown. I want to show you, these tomatoes come whole. And I have these scissors here for a reason. My partner, Manuel, is a fantastic lover of scissors. And it's his favorite kitchen appliance. And I have come to embrace it as well. Because see, these come whole. They're just a little bit too big. We don't want to have these giant tomatoes. Look, if you have chopped tomatoes, that's fine. But just come here. You can absolutely use these scissors. It's very easy. Some people are a little bit more, I know kids especially, are a little bit more testy about having the skins. So you can look, make sure the skins aren't on there. I know when I was a child, I hated tomatoes with skins because they get stuck in my braces. So be aware of that. Also, I do encourage you to use, these sauces of, these cans of tomatoes are so fantastic. I like to get all the liquid out of there. A little pro tip, I just put a little bit of water in there. Ooh, my garlic's getting good. And I just shush that up to get all that fantastic goodness out of my tomato can. All right. So now I'm happy with the color of my garlic. And now I have all my tomatoes cooked up. So going back to the lore of how this originated. So again, some people think that, it was the prostitutes that were trying to make this between customers. But believe it or not, other historians believe that it was actually some gentlemen down there in Ishari, or some customers were at this bar or restaurant really late at night, super late at night. And they got hungry, and they were starving. And they asked the owner for something to eat. And the owner said, sorry, dude, I have nothing left. Literally have nothing. And the customer said, just make Puttanesca qualsiasi. Puttanesca qualsiasi, which literally translates to throw together whatever you have, literally make something simple. So this is all the chef had left. Just a little bit of tomatoes, just some olives and some capers. And that's all he did. He threw this in, and this is how this dish was created. It was almost like when you're down to the very last of all of your stuff in your fridge, you are scraping by, and sometimes incredible things like this come about. So I just want to cook, I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I want to cook this for about 5 minutes and really let this all come together and get fantastic. Let these tomatoes suck in all that wonderful garlic and get nice and combined. Now, in the meantime, I want to talk to you about we're going to do our pasta or our linguine. Typically, this is made with linguine. Of course, for those of you who know, some people are very, very, very particular about the style of pasta. The classic one here is a linguine. So I do have a pot of water already heated, rolling boil. It's easier and quicker. Let's see. We call them end of the month meals where you live. Yes, Gozer, I think that's fantastic. Yes, the end of the month. So it's the end of the month in terms of budget. It's the end of the month in terms of what you have left in your fridge. Absolutely. So I'm going to be doing the entire bit of my linguine here. A pro tip. You can bring water up to boiling quicker if you put the salt in after. So there's your pro tip. The salt prevents it from boiling too quickly. But I had this already done, so it's already been salted. And there's a little bit of oil in there, not too much. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to let this mix this all around. The oil, yes, I do like to put just a tad of oil in there to prevent the pasta from sticking together. And as I'm cooking the tomatoes, sometimes people in Italy, I know my Italian friends growing up, it always confused me because they talked about the red sauce, and our grandmothers from Italy would call it gravy. And as a more traditional person with the terms of gravy, I always thought that was something that would go on turkey at Thanksgiving. But oftentimes, gravy is just something here in Italy will be considered a way of bringing all those fabulous flavors together, and the aromatics, especially here with the capers, the olives. So we're going to cook this until it's al dente. Let's come back over here and check out how we're doing with our gravy, or our tomato sauce. Okay, all right, here we go. That's looking yummy right there. You do want to let this reduce and condense a little bit. I wish we had smell-o-vision. If I had a nickel for every time I said that, but literally, we teach it in our school, 80 to 90% of all foods, chefs, is actually, the perception is smell. So literally, the more you can infuse, the more you can bring about these smells. We do have smells remind us of our childhood, it reminds us of wonderful holidays, of events, milestones. So really nice way to capture different memories in our lives. I think it's especially important right now. Now, I'm going to pop in the rest of the things. Now, I do have these olives I'm lucky to get here. These are Kalamata olives, and these are pitted, which means the stone or the pit has been removed. But don't worry, if you can't get them pitted, that's fine. I do like to cut them in half. And if you have ones that have the stone in them, all you need to do is just squeeze them, and that'll pop the pit right out. So again, if you have the pit in there, just squeeze it, and it'll pop right out. Again, cut these in half. I'm going to dump these in here, slippery. And then these capers are a little bit larger, so I'm okay with that because I really like the caper, the chunkiness, and I think it adds a lot of interest to the dish. But if you don't like the texture of them, you can chop these in half. So I'm going to pop these in. Now, another little pro tip, these capers come in a little bit of brine. You are going to be salting and peppering this to taste. So a little pro tip, I like to keep some of that caper juice. And instead of adding salt, you can actually add a little bit of this caper juice at the very end. Now, I also like to add a little bit of kick, a little bit of spice. I'm going to put just a little bit of chili flakes. You can add these, I'd like to put in a little bit now and build up the flavor, and then pop some in at the very end just for some extra visual interest, and then some extra spice as we're plating. All right, so now I do want to just check this for saltiness. Yep, I need some salt in there. So I am going to use a little bit of my caper juice. I will add a little bit of salt. All right. Now remember, I haven't gotten my anchovies in there, so I need to put those in. And now this is so much fun. I'm going to take these out. Wait till you see these bad boys. I'm telling you, these look so authentic. Like I mentioned. Look at that. Look at how realistic that looks. So you just want to take those out. And then loosely chop these. Also, this is a really nice amount. This oil in here, as you have these preserved in this oil, is also a fantastic way to use that infused. It's like an anchovy infused oil. I'm going to make this go down a little bit. So you just want to loosely chop these. I'm curious, what are some other applications how you would use? Tell me, Gozer, how else, because you said you were interested in these anchovies. Other than this dish, how else would you be interested in using anchovies? I'm curious what you say. Yeah, the month meal. Okay, I want to get a couple more out of there. And then I need to go check my pasta. Don't want to overcook that. You can always put a couple of these on top as well. It looks very authentic. Look, if you have kids that aren't into like fishy anchovies, if they know what they really are, don't tell them. Just tell them this is a pasta dish. Just tell them it's pasta with red sauce. That's my way of telling. I have a little system. People that know me know that I don't, if they ask me what's in a dish, I don't tell them. I have a rule. They just have to try one bite of it, and then I tell them what's in it. All right, let me try this. Get this pasta going over here. Pasta almost done. See, that's the rule. I tell people they have to try just one bite. And well, I verify they don't have any allergies. I find out that on the front end. But then, as long as they don't have any allergies, boom. I don't want people to have these preconceptions that will limit whether or not they like something. You know, a lot of times we eat with our eyes, so we see the visual. As I mentioned a minute ago, we eat with our noses. You know, we have the perception of the smell, that 80% smell. And here now, I don't have it going on right now, but my gosh, in Italy, we think of also there's the ambiance and there's imagine with the Italian music, you know, you think of like Luciano Pavarotti or what's the other guy's name? There's Placido Domingo. Wait, was he Italian? Yeah. And then, of course, this dish was even inspired by Sophia Loren because they talk about it after World War II, there were not a lot of options for women to have many careers. So believe it or not, they were many ladies of the evening. And then the other one was, who's that other singer I'm thinking? Anyway, when you're making this, put on some fantastic Italian music. I promise you, it'll taste even better. You'll feel like you went to Italy if you haven't been able to travel there. I know they have a lot of stuff going on right now. They're very busy trying to get everything squared away with all the restrictions. I'm going to try this one more time. You see how the sauce is getting thicker? It's reducing, and so it's going to be much more intense. The olive oil is going to help it stick to our linguine, which is almost done. Fabulous. All right, let me get over here, check this linguine. You do want to make the linguine al dente, which of course loosely translates to a little bit underdone. I'm going to try this here. Okay, perfecto. All right. I'm also going to give you a little pro tip as to how the pros plate this. I'm missing one important ingredient, but I'm going to walk you through it as to how the pros. If you've ever been to a fancy restaurant, you see how they plate all this stuff up and they put the pasta in a beautiful mound. Yep. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. All right. So here, I'm going to bring this over. So you just want to drain your pasta. Don't dump it all down the drain. You want to reserve a couple of tablespoons of your cooking water. So you don't want to get rid of all of that. You want to save just a little bit of it. Okay. So I'm saving all my water. Of course, I'm not going to use it all. You can, if you're not going to serve this right away, you can run it under cold water and stop it. But we're going to be serving this straight out. So I just put it back into my cooking pan. And now I'm going to be tossing my sauce straight into here. I love our kitchen. We have so many beeps. Everything talks to me. Beep, beep. Yep. That means you took your pan off. Yeah, so now I'm going to take this out. All right. So now all I'm going to do is combine this. I like to use tongs. You know, they're nice for a lot of different applications. Now, I'm actually pretty good. Today, my sauce is looking nice, and I'm happy with the consistency of it. As this sits, it's going to absorb the liquid. So if you're going to serve it straight away, I'm happy with, like I said, my wetness of this. But if you were going to be waiting 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, you would then use just maybe a tablespoon or 2 of your cooking water, okay? But now I want to show you, as I mentioned, that little super duper duper, very pro plating application, and I'm going to give it a go, which this is very difficult because I don't have the right size fork. And that's the most important item you need is a giant serving fork. That's right. All I have is the lonely regular dinner fork. But for those of you who have something like a giant meat fork, you know, the meat fork that you maybe serve, well, typically is with meat, but you would want to use that. So I'm going to just use this fork. And all you want to do is take your fork and start twirling that around. Now again, if you had a much larger fork, you could get a lot more of the pasta. So what I'm going to do, because I can't do it with a big enough fork, but I'm going to show you here, I can make smaller ones, okay? And this is how the pros do it. So you just do them one by one offside. Kind of fancy. This is if you really want to impress the people at the dinner party. Also, sometimes kids like doing this. You know, kids love twirling stuff around. Makes it more fun to eat. Because kids love to play with their food. At least the kids I know. They have like some food they like to eat, and they have other foods they like to play with. So there you go. You can serve that around like that in your pasta swirls. And then I like to come back, use your tongs, and now you can get some of those nice bits of tomato, and your anchovy on top, olives, capers. That's why I like to leave it a little bit chunkier. So there you go. This is a little bit fancier, but if you don't want to do fancy, just get a big old plate. You can kind of do the same thing with your tongs. And just get a big hunk, put it there in the middle. Boom. Not too hard, pretty easy to do. Get some more of your bits on top for the visual. Whoa. And I do like to hit it with just a little bit of fresh parsley, just for a little bit of color. Not necessary. I will tell you a true story. One of my friends used to work in the entertainment industry, and this was the favorite dish of Luciano Pavarotti, and he would actually eat this dish with a serving spoon, not a traditional spoon, but a serving spoon. So this was his favorite dish. He got one of those enormous spoons. He got it in his mouth. So whether or not you make the big giant helping or the itty bitty bitty cute little one, I hope you have a really fun and sexy prostitute-y, pasta puttanesca-y type of meal. Let me know. Oh, I do like it spicy. I'm going to put just a little bit more on here. Boom. Put some more chili flakes. Of course, if you're in Italy, you might even want to top this off with a little more olive oil, because they put just a little bit more olive oil on everything, but you don't have to. So here we go. Pasta puttanesca. Don't call anybody a punani or a putta. That's not very nice to call them that. But you can make them pasta puttanesca. Thanks for watching. And Gozer said he's going to put the anchovies on mashed potatoes. I love that idea. I would never have thought of that in a million years. I will tell you, literally, you could have asked me, take 24 hours and write every way that you would put anchovies on something, and I never would have thought about mashed potatoes. And that's something that I love about teaching here at the school, about working with Manuel and Jess, and also having all of you watching our YouTube channel, because we learn so much from you. I've never met someone named Gozer, so now I learned that today. And now the Wiener Schnitzel. Yes, Wiener Schnitzel, fantastic. I like saying Wiener Schnitzel. So, okay, I gotta go because I've hit my half an hour. Usually don't go that far. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know in the comments if you've made this recipe. Tell me if you've made it for your family or for your friends or maybe for some kids. Tell me, did you play some wonderful Italian mood music? And step back next time, next Tuesday at 1 p.m. as I continue with my savory channel. And don't forget, tomorrow at 10 a.m., Jessica will be delighting you with her sweet and utterly devilishly decadent and heavenly delights. Bye-bye.